You are all welcome to today's news analysis. This is where we break it down in simple English. No noise. No bias. Just facts, context, and strong questions. If you care about the future of Nigeria, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Because what we discuss here affects all of us. Now let's begin. The heat in Nigerian politics just went up again. The tension is no longer quiet. It is no longer hidden behind press statements and party slogans. It is now open, sharp, and direct. What happened recently in Edo State has added fuel to an already burning political climate. Former presidential candidate Peter Obi has raised serious alarm after he was attacked during a visit to Edo State. According to reports, unknown armed men began shooting and destroying vehicles in the area where he was present. The incident caused fear and confusion. It immediately triggered national attention because of who he is and what he represents in today's political space. This was not just another security incident. It involved a major opposition figure in Nigeria. Before this attack, there had already been political tension in the state. The governor of Edo State had publicly stated that Peter Obi's safety in the state could not be guaranteed. That statement is now being discussed again in light of what has happened. Many Nigerians are connecting the dots and asking serious questions. Peter Obi did not stay silent after the incident. He responded strongly. He stated that the APC government has crippled governance, weakened democracy and the judiciary, and damaged the economy. He went further to say that the sharpest rise in the number of people living in poverty has occurred in the last 2 years. Those are heavy accusations directed at the ruling party, the All Progressives Congress. This reaction has shifted the conversation from just an attack to the wider issue of governance in Nigeria. When an opposition leader makes such strong claims, it forces the country to pause and reflect. It raises concerns about political tolerance, security, and the state of democracy. Nigeria operates a multi-party democratic system. In such a system, opposition voices are expected to speak freely and move freely. Political competition is normal. Criticism of the government is normal. That is how democracy grows stronger. However, when violence enters the picture, it changes the tone of the debate. The timing of this attack is also important. Nigeria is still facing deep economic pressure. Inflation remains high. The cost of living continues to rise. Many families are struggling to adjust to economic reforms introduced in the last 2 years. Political emotions are already sensitive. Peter Obi's statement directly links the security situation to governance failure. He is arguing that what happened to him is not isolated but part of a broader decline in democratic standards. According to him, institutions that should protect citizens and political actors are becoming weaker. Supporters of the APC government reject this claim. They argue that security challenges are not new in Nigeria and that the current administration is working to stabilize the country. They insist that economic reforms take time and that short-term hardship is sometimes necessary for long-term gain. But the concern many Nigerians are expressing goes beyond party loyalty. It is about safety. It is about whether political actors can campaign, speak, and criticize without fear. It is about whether threats made in political spaces are taken seriously. Peter Obi's political influence remains significant. His supporters see him as a symbol of reform and accountability. His critics see him as a strong opposition voice who challenges the current leadership at every turn. Because of this, any incident involving him carries national weight. The situation in Edo State has therefore become more than a state issue. It is now part of the national political conversation. Security agencies have been urged to investigate the incident thoroughly. Citizens are demanding transparency. They want clear answers about who was responsible and whether there was any political motive behind the attack. Nigeria's democracy has faced challenges before. Political rivalry has always been intense. But moments like this test the strength of institutions. They test whether leaders can disagree without violence. They test whether the rule of law stands above party interest. As the country watches closely, one thing is clear. The political temperature has risen sharply. And what happens next will shape the tone of Nigeria's democratic journey in the months ahead. The focus has now shifted from the attack itself to the deeper accusations made by Peter Obi against the current administration. In his reaction, he did not limit his comments to security concerns. He expanded the discussion to governance, the economy, the judiciary, and what he described as growing imbalance in federal appointments. Peter Obi stated clearly that governance under the APC has been crippled. In practical terms, that accusation suggests that public institutions are not functioning as effectively as they should. Governance is not only about holding office. It is about managing the economy, ensuring security, strengthening institutions, and maintaining public trust. When a former presidential candidate says governance has been crippled, it sends a strong signal that he believes core systems are failing. He also accused the government of weakening democracy and the judiciary. Democracy depends on strong institutions that operate independently. The judiciary, in particular, plays a key role in settling disputes, protecting rights, and checking the powers of the executive and legislative arms. When opposition figures claim that the judiciary is being weakened, it raises concern about whether decisions are being made fairly and without pressure. These claims are serious because they question the foundation of the political system itself. However, it was his comments on the economy that drew the widest reaction. Peter Obi said that the sharpest rise in poverty has occurred in the last 2 years. Nigeria has faced significant economic shifts during this period. The removal of fuel subsidies, exchange rate adjustments, and other reforms have had immediate effects on daily life. The cost of food, transportation, and basic goods has increased sharply. Many households report difficulty meeting basic needs. Economic data in recent months has shown rising inflation and pressure on purchasing power. Small businesses have struggled with higher operational costs. Young people continue to face unemployment and underemployment. In that context, Obi's statement about rising poverty connects directly with the lived experiences of many Nigerians. Supporters of the current administration argue that economic reforms were necessary to correct long-standing structural problems. They say previous policies were unsustainable and that painful adjustments were unavoidable. According to them, the long-term goal is stability, increased investment, and stronger growth. They maintain that early hardship does not mean permanent decline. Yet critics insist that the impact on ordinary citizens has been too severe and too fast. They argue that economic planning should protect the most vulnerable while implementing reforms. The debate remains intense because the economic reality is visible in markets, on the streets, and in homes across the country. Peter Obi also criticized what he described as one-sided federal appointments. Nigeria operates on a federal character principle, designed to ensure fair representation of different regions and ethnic groups in government positions. This principle exists because Nigeria is diverse, with many ethnic nationalities and regional identities. Balance in appointments is seen as essential for unity and national stability. Recently, President Bola Tinubu appointed a new acting Inspector General of Police to replace the outgoing IGP. Critics note that both officers come from the same region of the country. For those already concerned about regional balance, this appointment has become part of a broader argument about fairness in federal representation. Supporters of the president argue that appointments are based on competence and trust. They emphasize that the president has constitutional authority to make such decisions. They also point out that previous administrations faced similar criticism regardless of which region was favored at a given time. Still, perception matters in politics. When large sections of the population feel excluded, tension increases. The debate over appointments is therefore not only about one position but about confidence in inclusive leadership. The combined weight of security concerns, economic hardship, and appointment controversies has intensified political debate nationwide. Opposition voices are growing louder. Government supporters are defending reform efforts. Citizens are watching carefully. At the center of this discussion is a fundamental question about direction. Is Nigeria moving towards stronger institutions and long-term stability, or are the current policies weakening trust and widening division? The answer will depend not only on political statements but on measurable outcomes in security, economic relief, and institutional strength in the months ahead. Public reaction continues to grow across different regions of the country. Civil groups are demanding accountability, while political leaders trade statements. The coming weeks will reveal whether tensions calm down or deepen further nationwide. The developments surrounding the attack and the strong accusations that followed have now placed Nigeria's democratic stability under fresh examination. Beyond party rivalry, the situation has raised broader concerns about political tolerance, national unity, and the future of opposition politics in the country. In any democracy, the safety of political actors is critical. When an opposition leader faces violence or threats, it creates fear not only among politicians but also among citizens who support them. Democracy depends on open competition of ideas. It depends on freedom of movement, freedom of speech, and equal protection under the law. If any of these pillars appear weak, public confidence begins to shake. Peter Obi's remarks after the incident did not sound like routine political criticism. His tone suggested deep frustration with what he believes is a pattern of decline. By linking his attack to broader governance failures, he has framed the issue as more than a security lapse. He has framed it as evidence of systemic weakness. This framing carries weight because of Nigeria's political history. The country has experienced periods of military rule, electoral disputes, and institutional strain. Since the return to civilian rule in 1999, successive administrations have promised to strengthen democratic norms. Progress has been made in some areas, but challenges remain. Allegations of political pressure, uneven law enforcement, and executive dominance continue to surface from time to time. The current administration under President Bola Tinubu maintains that it is committed to reform and national development. Officials argue that strong decisions are required to stabilize public finances and attract investment. They point to policy changes aimed at restructuring the economy and improving revenue generation. According to them, criticism from opposition figures is part of the normal democratic process. However, the intensity of the present debate suggests deeper tension. Nigeria's economic hardship has made political disagreements more emotional. When citizens are under financial strain, they become more sensitive to issues of fairness, security, and representation. Political events are no longer seen in isolation. They are interpreted through the daily realities of rising costs and limited opportunities. The controversy over federal appointments has amplified this tension. Nigeria's diversity requires careful political balancing. When appointments appear concentrated within certain regions, it feeds narratives of exclusion. Even when decisions are legally valid, perception can shape public trust. A democracy does not rely only on legality, it relies on legitimacy and confidence. Security agencies are now under pressure to conduct transparent investigations into the Edo incident. Nigerians expect clarity. They want to know who was responsible and whether there were political motives involved. A thorough and open process could calm tension. A vague or delayed response could deepen suspicion. At the same time, political leaders across parties face responsibility. Strong words may energize supporters, but they can also raise the political temperature. Nigeria's democracy benefits when leaders choose restraint, even in disagreement. Sharp criticism is allowed. Violence and threats are not. Another key issue is institutional independence. The judiciary, electoral bodies, and law enforcement agencies must operate without fear or favoritism. Public belief in these institutions is essential for stability. If citizens begin to feel that institutions serve political interests rather than national interests, polarization grows. International observers are also watching. Nigeria plays a major role in West Africa's political and economic landscape. Its democratic health affects regional stability. Events that suggest rising political intolerance draw attention beyond its borders. That reality increases the importance of handling the current situation with transparency and responsibility. For ordinary Nigerians, the debate comes down to simple concerns. They want safety. They want affordable living conditions. They want equal treatment regardless of region or political party. They want leaders who disagree without turning disagreement into conflict. The coming months will test the strength of Nigeria's democratic framework. If institutions respond firmly and fairly, confidence may be restored. If economic reforms begin to show measurable relief, political tension may soften. But if security concerns persist and economic pressure remains high, criticism will likely intensify. At this moment, Nigeria stands at a sensitive crossroads. Political rivalry is expected in any democracy. What defines maturity is how that rivalry is managed. The nation's future will depend not only on policy outcomes but on whether leaders across the spectrum choose dialogue over hostility and accountability over denial. The present situation is therefore more than a passing headline. It is a test of democratic endurance, institutional integrity, and national cohesion. How it is resolved will shape public trust and political stability in the years ahead. Citizens are paying close attention to how leaders respond in this critical period. Words alone will not be enough. Nigerians want action that proves the system still works for everyone, not just for those in power. They want investigations that are open and credible. They want economic policies that reduce pressure, not increase it. They want appointments that reflect unity, not division. Political competition will always exist, but it must remain within the boundaries of law and respect. If trust is rebuilt through fairness and accountability, the country can move forward stronger. If mistrust continues to grow, tension may harden. The choice before Nigeria's leadership is clear, and the outcome will define the strength of its democracy.